Hello, everyone. My name is Jody Perry. I'm the president and CEO of the Richland Area Chamber in Economic Development. Today, I'm going to spend about 20 minutes talking to you about our newest business grant program here in Richland County. It's called the Richland County COVID-19 Food and Beverage Entertainment Venue Lodging and Tourism Grant Program. Yes, it's quite a mouthful, but I'm going to spend some time telling you a little bit more about it and the businesses that will qualify. So let's first talk a little bit about how we got here to where we are giving away money. If I can get my computer to cooperate, there we go. You may remember back in the spring, something called the American Rescue Plan Act was passed by Congress. Our local municipalities, including the county, received an allocation of funds from that. So there's a variety of ways that the governments can spend it, and the commissioners approached the chamber this fall to work with them to launch another round of business grants. You may remember we did this in 2020. At that time, we partnered with the county and other municipalities to award grants to 468 small businesses and nonprofits for a total of just over $2.7 million. And that was sponsored or funded by the CARES Act program. This time, we're aiming to help businesses that are in what is considered the hardest hit industries, which would be the food and beverage, tourism, and lodging, and entertainment venue. We've modeled ours loosely on what the state of Ohio did over the summer, although there are some differences to it. And at this time, the county is giving us $950,000 to distribute. And we are in talks with at least one other entity at this time to potentially contribute money. And we will make that announcement when it is final. So let's talk about what businesses are eligible. First, you must be a for-profit or nonprofit business located in Richland County, Ohio. Any form of business is eligible. So it can be a for-profit or nonprofit, corporation, LLC, sole proprietor, any form is fine. But if you're not a sole proprietor, then the business must be registered with the Secretary of State's office. You must have been in continuous operation prior to January 31st, 2020, and we may need to show proof of that existence. You must have experienced at least a 10% loss in your revenues in either 2020 or 2021 compared to the same time period in 2019. So we are looking at the overall year. We will take into consideration any other assistance that you may have received, such as the Paycheck Protection Program, other state or local grants, things of that nature. But if factoring all of that in, you still had at least a 10% loss, then you would qualify as long as you meet one of the last qualifications here, which would be your business must be classified in one of the following industries. So food and beverage, which would be NAICS codes beginning with 722. And I know that people don't often use NAICS codes or know what their NAICS code is. So let me give you a few examples of that. Food caterers, mobile food services, drinking places, breweries, wineries, distilleries, full service restaurants, limited service restaurants, fraternal organizations, coffee shops, cafeterias, buffets, snack and non-alcoholic bars. So those are some examples of that. In the tourism and lodging industry, we would be looking at NAICS codes beginning with 721, 487, and 5615. And those would be hotels and motels, bed and breakfasts, RV parks and recreational camps, scenic and sightseeing transportation, travel agencies, tour operators, and convention and visitors bureaus. And lastly, for the entertainment venue, NAICS codes beginning with 711, 712, and 713. Those would be things like theaters and dinner theaters, movie theaters, indoor and outdoor music venues, comedy clubs, concert halls, spectator sports venues, museums, art centers and galleries, historical sites, zoos and botanical gardens, which we don't have zoos here, amusement and theme parks, family fun centers, trampoline and adventure parks, arcades, golf courses, sports centers, skiing facilities, marinas, recreational sports centers, and bowling centers. So all of that will be on our guidelines. So you can download that and double check to make sure your business is going to fit into one of these. Grant amounts are based on a calculated loss of revenues. So if you have 10 to 30% loss, you would receive a $10,000 grant. A 31 to 50% loss is a $20,000 grant, and a 51% or more loss would be a $30,000 grant. Just to note that your grant amount would be capped by the actual amount of your loss. So in other words, if you had a 52% loss and qualified for the $30,000 grant, but your actual amount of loss was only, let's say, $25,000, then the grant would be capped at that $25,000. It's whichever is the lesser amount. So what businesses are disqualified? Well, any business that's permanently closed or not intending to reopen its business following the pandemic. At this point, we're far enough along that businesses have reopened. Unfortunately, some businesses have closed this year. They would not be eligible. They must be continuing to operate. A business that's in receivership or bankruptcy would not qualify. A business operating as a skills game or entertainment device arcade does not qualify. Any business that's operating as a sexually oriented business as defined in the mentioned section of the Ohio Revised Code there. Any business that is operated by a governmental agency or entity. Any business that is a non-franchised publicly traded company would not qualify. And lastly, any business that does not derive the majority of its income from the industries covered in the grants. So food and beverage, lodging and tourism, and entertainment venues. Unfortunately, those businesses outside of those areas do not qualify for this grant program. So how can you use the grant? For those that maybe received grants on an earlier round with us, this is very similar. So most following what has been approved for previous grant programs, such as the Paycheck Protection Program, personal PPE, personal protective equipment to protect employees, customers, and clients from COVID, certainly measures that you had to take to protect those same people from COVID, mortgage payments, rent payments, utility payments on your place of business. Just with a note there, though, that we cannot include those payments for an owner's primary residence. So if you are a home-based business in one of those industries, unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to use those three. Health, property, and casualty and liability insurance payments would qualify. Vehicle and equipment lease or rental payments, as long as that was leased prior to the onset of the pandemic. Salaries and wages, which is probably the most popular way businesses have utilized their reimbursements. Other costs that are related to the closures or just the ongoing running of your business should qualify. And then as a sole proprietor, you can use grant funds to to replace a portion of your lost revenue, which essentially operates as your salary and wages. And so that can be up to 1/6 of the net profit reported on line 31 of your 2020 Schedule C. So do note that expenses must be incurred and paid between March 15th, 2020, which is when the pandemic is considered to have started, and January 6th, 2022, which is the date the program is opening. So this is a reimbursement grant. These are funds that you have already expended that we are reimbursing you for. And please do note that you may not claim something that you've also been reimbursed for by the Paycheck Protection Program or any other federal, state, or local program, such as the Restaurant Revitalization Fund or the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. So what do you need to do to apply? Well, you'll visit our website. We've got the link here on the screen. You'll click on that page, apply here for a new grant. Applications will open at 9 a.m. on Thursday, January 6th, 2022. And the deadline to apply is 4 p.m. on Monday, January 31st, 2022. Now, there is a difference between this round of grants and our previous round. Previously, the order you applied really made no difference. We were judging all the grants according to a set of criteria. This time, we will be awarding grants in the order they are received, provided the business meets all the guidelines that we just talked about. And we will go through that in order until the funds are expended. Now, I do want to encourage you to still go ahead and apply, even if you're not hitting it very early in the process, because we don't plan to do another round of grants. And should more money be put into the program, we'll go back to that original list of applicants and continue to award money again in order of receipt. You should expect to spend about 20 minutes on the application. It's slightly shorter than our previous applications if you did one of those, but it will still take some time. To give you an idea of things that you should probably have handy to make that go quicker, you're going to want to know your total gross sales and receipts for calendar years 2019, 2020, and 2021. Obviously, 2021 is going to be very preliminary. We understand that for businesses on the calendar year, you're not going to have, all financials done, but certainly like a profit and loss statement for the year to date would suffice. We will ask you about the expenses that you're proposing to use to reimburse. We will ask for full-time and part-time employees as of the end of the year, December 31st, 2021. And for you to decide whether you're claiming the loss in 2020 or 2021. Obviously, we would assume it would be the year that you have the larger loss in, but that is up to you to decide. Some additional things to have handy to make the process smoother. You will need your business EIN or your social security number for the owner if you file without an EIN. The contact information for any business owner with more than a 20% share of the business, we will ask you for that. You will need to know the month and year that you established your business. And so businesses that go back a little ways, you may need to dig into your records a little bit to figure out what month it was. Your 3-digit NAICS code, which we talked about a little earlier. If you're unsure where you would qualify, a great thing to do is just Google NAICS code and a description of your business, such as NAICS code coffee shop or NAICS code daycare, which a daycare wouldn't qualify this time, but a coffee shop would. We do have it as a drop-down menu, but please note that, if you say you're a certain NAICS code, but you really aren't qualified that way, then it would be ultimately a disqualification. Food and beverage businesses, we're going to look for a copy of your state vendor's license and a food service permit or liquor license to just show us that you are indeed approved. And then hotel motels, you have to file with the State Department of Commerce. So we're going to ask for a copy of your valid license. Others that we listed earlier don't have to have special licenses, but obviously we're going to look for essentially proof to make sure that you really are a business in those industries that are approved. Some best practice suggestions: for sure, take your time when you're filling out the application and be sure to answer all questions completely. We really need to rely on what you tell us to qualify the application. Now, we will try to work with you if we see something that is obviously wrong, but it really makes the whole process easier if you double check everything before you're submitting it. Obviously, you must be truthful in your responses, and you are certifying that with the submission of your application. Be careful with the yes or no questions. There's a series of those at the end. If you're not sure what they're asking, please just give us a call at the chamber and ask us. We'd be happy to explain it to you, but some of those questions will potentially disqualify you from the program. So be sure to slow down and read those. Review your application before submitting it. Again, just helps to make sure that you're filling things out as correctly as possible. Now, inevitably, potentially, you may make a mistake or you realize you forgot to include something. You can contact us at grants@richlandareachamber.com as soon as you can to explain the mistake. Let us know your business, let us know when you applied, and we will try to get that fixed in the application so that we can look at it more cohesively. And then finally, obviously earlier we talked about all the numbers that you're going to have to enter. Don't use decimal points, just round up to the nearest number, no dollar signs, nothing like that, just a pure number. So, no commas, nothing. So make it very easy for you. How are grants awarded? Well, we said earlier, this is different than a previous round where we had a standard application period, and then we looked at all applications and reviewed and scored them. This will be awarded on a rolling basis. Applicants must qualify for the minimum requirements, which we talked about earlier, including the loss, the type of business, when you were formed, all of those things. But if you meet all of those things, then your grant would be awarded in the order you applied, and as long as funds are available. So again, we have $950,000 from Richland County, and we do believe we will receive additional money from at least one other entity. So if that happens in that instance, if it's a particular city, we're going to award that city's monies first to businesses within that jurisdiction. And then we will go back and award county money to all businesses. So trying to make sure that we're helping as many businesses as possible. So what happens after you apply? Well, you'll be notified of your status on a rolling basis within 3 weeks of the application. We hope to be able to do it sooner than that, but obviously this is a little different process. So we're saying give us up to 3 weeks. We will contact you likely via email, and we're going to want to see some additional documentation. So you will have a grant agreement that you sign with us saying that, yes, indeed, you will use the money in accordance with the guidelines. You'll have to send us your W-9, as well as the first page of your business tax returns from 2019 and 2020. And if you're a sole prop, it would be your Schedule C and the first page of your 1040. If you're claiming the loss in 2021, then obviously you won't have your tax returns done, but we will want to see a report from the accounting system backing up what you said your receipts and sales were for the year. So, just kind of depends on whether you're claiming 2020 or 2021. Once again, this is a reimbursement grant. So before funds are issued, we will want to see documentation of the expenses you're claiming. That'll just make it easier. Once you get the money, you're done. You don't have to follow up with us anymore to give us any paperwork. So that's just a little different from the first time we did these. Once those eligibilities are verified, we've got all your documents, then we will issue the check for the grant within 7 to 10 business days. And again, our team is really committed to trying to do this as quickly as possible. We know that this will be helpful to businesses, and everyone is busy. So we're going to try to work through this as quickly as we can. Again, keep an eye on your email that you use to apply, because that's going to be a big way that we will contact you. And do note, a final list of grant recipients and the amounts received will be publicly announced. I mean, this is publicly funded. So, things that you are submitting may be public documents. Now, there are some carve-outs in the Ohio Revised Code, but do recognize that receipt of these would be public. So you may have additional questions. If you do, you can give us a call at the chamber, which is 419-522-3211, or reach out to us at grants@richlandareachamber.com. Again, the program will start at 9 a.m. on Thursday, January 6th. It will close the application period at 4 p.m. on Monday, January 31st. But we do encourage you to apply as soon as you are able. And again, we want to thank the Richland County Commissioners for their support in getting this program up and running. Thanks to everyone else who has helped to get this program stood up. We hope that it would be helpful to your business to help keep you moving as we continue to recover from all the impacts of this pandemic. Thanks so much, everyone, and I hope that you have a great day.